Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a little bit different because I've got a special guest with me. He's one of my best friends and marketing gurus, and we're going to be talking about how to market yourself as a creative. We met in a marketing team at a startup before going our separate ways and creating our own businesses. We talk pretty much daily, and the reason I wanted to have him on here is because he's always sharing these amazing nuggets of wisdom that I think the world needs to hear. We're constantly sharing ideas, hyping each other up, and just being really supportive of each other. And now there are several themes we talk about again and again, and I wanted to do an interview with Jordan and see if he would share some of his nuggets of wisdom with all of you. So sit back and enjoy. This is going to be more of a conversation rather than a quick video, and we can talk for hours, so we'll try and condense it. And don't forget, if you like this content, please like, share and subscribe to both of our YouTube channels. I'll leave a link in the description below so you can find Jordan's. So onto the chat. Cool, so I've actually prepared some questions for you, Jordan, because you know how I love to be organised and have a little bit of structure. But I feel like we'll probably go off on a bit of a tangent because I know what we're like. But because you're so good at marketing and you're also a creative, this is why I wanted to have you on here. And the first question I had for you is, I feel that when you're a brand, you specifically talk about how there needs to be value and how you need to provide value for your audience. And this is something we talk about all the time. And I was just wondering whether you could explain what you mean by this.
Yeah, so value creation is so important when you're a business or a brand or an individual. It's so much more than just existing. There has to be a reason above why you exist. So if you're an illustrator, for example, if you're existing just to make the art, then yes, that's amazing. But how many people are also doing that within your space? So how do you stand out from the rest? And the way that you actually do that is by creating value from alternative places. So it could be your community building, or it could be your relationship with individuals just on a one-to-one basis and giving them access to you. There's ways to actually create value or your unique selling propositions that actually make people gravitate more towards you. And finding those for yourself, whatever works for you, is really important.
Yeah, I don't really know what mine is. I guess maybe conversation starters, and people sort of find community in the comments of social media or something. There.
Yeah,
and
I think you have a lot of. I think you have a lot of different value props in that. Like your email is like a layer above what an illustrator normally does, where you're actually communicating and building the community around your email, and then rewarding people for being a part of your email and actually purchasing from you in the past. You've also got the conversation starter aspect, which you mentioned, of actually having pieces that invoke conversation amongst your comments, and then you actually dive in and communicate and respond to all your comments, which is another source of value that a lot of people don't do.
I really do try and do that. It takes a bit of time, and I have to kind of build myself up. Not usually, but just yesterday I posted an illustration. It resonated with them. I couldn't bring myself to reply yesterday, but this morning I made sure I went in and just went through everyone's comments, tried to have a little conversation or just say thank you, because I think that's the thing as well. I'm just so appreciative of everyone's support.
Yes.
I really like what you were saying, and I sort of found it a little bit controversial about something that you were going to do, where you said you're going to offer all your wisdom for free.
Yeah, which I think, again, is value. It's when you look at the industry, or the marketing industry in particular, which is where I exist, everything is hidden behind a paywall, or you have to hire that person in order to get access to that information. And there's a lot of businesses out there which are small businesses, one-man shops, two people at most, that can't afford to hire an agency or a person to actually come on and run their marketing. But why can't they have access to the same level of information? Which, yeah, that's a level of value which it goes above and beyond, I guess, but it's really important just to try and help people, because that's why you're doing it. Unless you're doing it selfishly just to get money, which you're probably never going to get money at that point either.
So you're sort of adding the value through educating for free, and people will respect you for that. And also you'll probably get more recognition for doing that because you're giving your content.
Because it's just the right thing to do. Yeah, and it's just a nice thing to do. There's so many people that just hide away and this is our little secret, but there's no real secrets. Everything's available on Google. So it's a case of just presenting it in a way that this is most valuable.
This is what I'm talking about. All those little nuggets of wisdom that he just hits you with. Everything's available on Google. I love it. And another thing you're always trying to get me to do is humanize myself more. And like add more me, and I hate to do it. Like I think one of the reasons I am an illustrator is because I like to hide behind my art. I can have my views, but if you're attacking the art, you're not attacking me necessarily. You're attacking the art. But why do you think it's so important to add that human behind the work?
I think so humanization is so important, and the reason is because it gives people something else to hold on to when they're actually experiencing your actual work that you want to share. So if you're an illustrator, for example, people knowing that you're also interested in reading books or playing an instrument, that helps to make them feel closer to you, which is a massive part of actually getting them to really know you personally, which makes them a lot more loyal to your content. The way I see it is, if there's two people posting the exact same content, how are you actually standing out from that individual? And the content is just going to be the content at the end of the day. So it's giving them all the other layers to you in order to actually bring them closer. And different things will resonate with different people, which is why it's key to share as much as possible.
The creative onion.
Yeah, there's so many layers, right?
And I think that goes quite nicely onto process. You're always on about the process. Hazel, post your process. People want to see the process. But something that discourages me is that, and I know it shouldn't, but we're living in this time of social media, and when I post process videos, it doesn't get as much engagement. It doesn't get as much excitement as, say, the final illustration.
100%.
Yeah. But you still think it's worth it?
Yeah, 100%. Because it's the difference between someone that's just going to view the big piece that you have, the viral piece, the one that goes completely crazy and you get a ton of impressions and views on it and likes and shares. That's always going to be there, and that's always going to be amazing. But that's your way of actually getting more people into you and your brand. And then on top of that, then you layer it, and then you say, okay, what else are we giving them in order to make them stick around? And as a freelancer, this is also important, because you can say, okay, I would give the client this piece of art or this marketing strategy or whatever you're providing, but getting them to actually come back to you again and again is about giving them those tangible pieces that make them want to actually work with you in the future, instead of just going to someone else that can also provide the same thing at a lower cost. And giving insight into your process and your strategy and how you're actually going about it, the process itself makes it a lot more believable and just tangible.
I guess it also it shows your skill, or it's another sort of accreditation of how skilled you are at whatever craft you're doing.
Yeah.
And could it also encourage other people to want to do similar things and kind of show people how to.
Yeah, because it is also the inspiration behind it. When people get to see how hard the workers actually do, they value it a lot more than if you just show them the final work, which I'm sure you get this a lot. I see in your comments all the time, like people saying, oh, can you also do an illustration about this or about that? And it's so much effort and takes so much time, but they don't know that because you haven't shown your process.
That's
and you
true.
haven't shown how you actually arrived at that final piece.
That's really true, actually. I got one of those comments today. Like, this is great, but can you also do one about this? I'm always tempted to write back, yes, I'm available for commissions. But that's so cheeky. I shouldn't do that. So what are you venturing into next? Because you've always got something new on the brain, and you're always building away at little bits and bobs.
I think we spoke about this before, like NFTs, like turning all of the art that I have already into NFTs, and just seeing what happens. Not expecting anything from it, but just looking at how it actually works as like an infrastructure and how an artist can actually use it.
So let's go into this, because I actually attended a lecture last week, 2 weeks ago, about NFTs, and I came away from it thinking, I don't know how I'd be able to use them. I wanted to kind of understand them because everyone's talking about them in the art world at the moment, but I couldn't really see a way for myself to use them right now.
It really comes down to like the collectible items world and how people collect things. Like, all the books behind me are my collection of books. I've got music that's the same, or my collection of music, and that's what I collect. But there's people that are out there that will collect art and really cherish a piece of art, and being able to actually give them something in a digital sense, which is actually one of one, and it is the original. It just means something more to that person. So it's really just a new way of actually layering on that turning digital art into something that's a lot more than what's just posted on Instagram, for example. So having like a one-of-one NFT, which is one of your prints, which makes it more valuable to that person if they choose to buy it.
I do kind of wonder, though, whether people will care enough. I think that's why I haven't pursued it. I feel like maybe in the fine art world it's something new and innovative, and perhaps would matter a bit more.
I always think about this in terms of the average person. Are they actually thinking about the difference between like fine art and just normal art? Probably not. They're just looking at it all as art. There's ways of actually layering value on top of it. So actually, if you're selling an NFT with like one piece of art, you can just like give access to that individual to you over time, which could be another value prop of actually purchasing that NFT. You could also sell NFTs as like tickets to like events or like a secret meetup or something. And only people that have actually bought the NFT can actually come to the meetup, which is a completely different avenue and different way of actually looking at it. But it's layering that value on top.
Is that just a ticket? Or you mean sort of having the art and then that also gives you access to this event?
Yeah.
It's not just a ticket.
Yeah. So it's not just a ticket, it's also a collectible, something to actually commemorate that moment in time, which is what collectibles are.
And will this kind of work in a similar way to, a big painting, and then further down the line, you can sell that for even more? Or is it too early to kind of tell what's going to happen with them?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of noise in the NFT world. I think the reason why it's taken such a massive storm is because there's literally art being sold for like £40 million in the NFT world, which is just crazy. Which is why it's taken such a massive like push. But at the same time, there will be a lot of rubbish NFTs that nobody wants, and the market will get flooded with those. But at the same time, it's really just finding the ways to actually add that value on top.
And I guess also make it a little bit of if there's so much noise, make it something people are going to talk about.
Yeah, Like, you have to make it special. It has to be meaningful to that person. So, for example, like the meetup idea, if someone brought the NFT and it granted them access to a meetup as well, they could then also sell that ticket or that piece of art later on down the line, like resell it to someone else who really values it and wants to go.
Wow.
And feels like they missed out on that opportunity, which, it just opens up a new world to actually, it's communications. It's just a new way to communicate.
I guess that's something else that's really important. I know we haven't said we were going to talk about this, but the importance of kind of keeping up with new technologies and playing around with what else is out there.
I mean, it's so impossible to actually keep up, but if it's hitting the point of everyone is talking about it, you probably should know. That's how I pretty much see it. It's in the world, and like there's different parts of the world in different communities actually talking about something. So like the art world is talking about NFTs, the marketing world is talking about NFTs, the business world too is also talking about NFTs. Like if there's like 3 worlds all talking about this one thing, you probably should know what it is.
I remember when TikTok was starting out, I think you were telling me, Hazel, get on TikTok because look at where it is in the download chart. Like, this is going to be huge. You should listen to me.
That's a top secret. That's a top secret.
Sorry, do you want me to edit that out?
The download chart is... No, that's fine. Keep it in. No, but the download chart is like the secret way of actually knowing what's going on at all times, because our phones are always with us. People are downloading apps. Every time someone downloads the app, it changes the download chart. So every single day it updates at like 12 a.m. and you can literally just look at what the top 10, top 20, top 30 apps are. And at that point, I think TikTok was like number 76. And it would just go with 76, 50, 25.
That's crazy.
And then all of a sudden it's in like the top 10. And it's like, okay, I saw this coming a while ago.
Wow. And another thing you told me to do on TikTok was just to stay true to myself and not necessarily, like at the moment it's all people dancing, but eventually it's going to turn into the next Instagram or the next Facebook. Yeah,
like Facebook when it first started was just for friends. Like, it was a way of connecting with friends. And now if you go on your newsfeed on Facebook, tell me the first post that you see from a friend. You don't see any. They just don't exist. There's no friends on there. If you look at Instagram as well, like Instagram was a place for photos with filters at first. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you're watching all sorts of content on Instagram, which is far from food photos and just pictures of sunsets. There's so much more happening on there. And TikTok is pretty much the same. Like, I can't remember the last time that I actually went on TikTok and saw a dancing video, because there is no dancing videos on there anymore, because it has evolved so much. They're still there, but they're just not the only thing that exists.
What do you think the next platform's going to be? Is there anything that's interesting you right now?
Clubhouse is fascinating, but I don't think it has legs.
Ooh.
I think it probably will get killed.
Oh no.
I think it's a feature that exists on another platform instead of it being a standalone app. So like Twitter could easily make, and they've got Twitter Spaces, which is like a clone of Clubhouse within Twitter, which has been rolled out across the US, and it's just massive. So yeah, I don't think Clubhouse has the legs, but it's definitely fascinating. And audio is a massive part. There's only 3 types of content really, which is audio, written, and video, or visual as a whole. All of those mediums they all exist. So just picking the one that you actually like and being authentic to yourself and whatever content you're making.
Yeah, and I think the platforms like listen to each other as well, as in like they look to see what's doing well. Because you were saying that TikTok, then instantly Instagram were doing Reels, and now Reels are taking over.
Reels is the only thing on Instagram right now. It's the only thing that they really focused on. It's fascinating to watch. At first it was IGTV. That was like the biggest one. Obviously Stories came, which was like they ripped off Snapchat. and just took Snapchat onto Instagram. Then IGTV came, which was their shot at YouTube. Now it's Reels, and that's their shot at TikTok. So yeah, it's just a massive game of who can actually grab and hold the market.
So do you think Instagram's going to stay around for a while?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
It's still got a lot of time left. But it will get bombarded with ads. Like worse than what it is right now.
No. No more ads. Okay, so another thing I wanted to talk about and ask you about was because this was a sort of tactic you told me to do, and I wasn't really having it. I didn't believe you until I did it, and it really worked. And it's, so I feel like we talk about psychology loads, and this kind of feeds into it. And this is about the scarcity mentality or something. And you told me to like do a limited run of prints, and I did, and they sold out in a day. When usually like I get a few people interested, and then a few more people the next day, and then it kind of comes in little bits and down the line. But this was crazy. I remember I kept going back to my Instagram post and updating the description like, oh, only 13 left. Oh, it's sold out. So can we talk about like the psychology to buying?
Yeah. So first of all, the art has to be good. Like, and your art was really good.
Okay.
Like, so it sold for that reason. But yeah, like limiting the amount of supply you have compared to the amount of demand there is will get people to actually buy it in so much more of a hurry than if you just did 500 versions of that one piece of art. Which is, yeah, it's the whole mentality is that it's exclusive, it's limited, and things that are limited are much more desirable. So it's really taking that entire principle and just turning it into something that you utilize on every single occasion. So like there's many brands out there that do this, from like Supreme, who make clothes, and they will have like, they sold a dog bowl, for example.
What?
Which is like really limited. They're a fashion company, but they sold the dog bowl. They've also sold like crowbars and all sorts of random things. But there's literally like 50 of them in existence. So people want them so much. And if you look at the value of them over time, they've just gone through the roof. You could buy them for like $50, $100, $150. And now some of them are selling for like $4,000.
Wow.
And it's just because it's so limited and you can't get it anywhere. So doing that with your art is basically the same thing. Like there's McLaren, a car company, also does it, in that there's certain cars that you can only get if they invite you to get them. So like there's like one-of-one cars that have been made specifically for somebody because they're famous. They've got some level of brand, which makes them get this special car that is only available for them. And yeah, it just makes it a lot more valuable and a lot more special to actually have that. And if you know that, hey, like there's only 50 of these art prints and they're super limited, they are probably going to sell out, you're probably just going to jump in and get it straight away instead of waiting and delaying the purchase.
I think what it was because I did a sort of first edition. I didn't really say it was an edition or anything. I just bought 50 at the time, and they kind of sold out as and when. And then people kept asking me to bring it back. So I did, and I said, only 50 of these, here they are. And yeah, people bought them so much faster than the first time, which I thought was crazy because I thought everyone that would have wanted them would have bought them by now.
It's also because they probably missed out. Yeah, they felt like they missed out on that first run. Mm-hmm. So when you brought them back, it's like, oh, we have to get it right now.
Yeah, I think I'm going to keep doing this as well. So there are some prints that people keep asking for, and I think I will in time. I'm just going to build up that suspense first.
Yeah, it's a great strategy.
So next up, I wanted to say I love your Marketer Reacts videos. So for anyone that hasn't seen, Jordan is doing this great series where he reacts to different ad campaigns. And I think it's a really good idea if you're trying to market something to watch them, because he'll be sort of sharing his advice on what works and what doesn't. So I was wondering whether there was a particular brand or a particular ad that has stuck in your brain for doing something really well, or whether there's something really wacky that anyone's done.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you. I actually don't like that Marketer React series.
What? Why?
It's it's really interesting because it's one of those ones where at first I liked filming them, and then after time it became a bit of a drag and a bit more. It felt like I was forcing it instead of just doing it naturally. But yeah, when I see an ad that is really good, I'm definitely going to do it again. But yeah, you might not get one for a while. But in terms of the brands which are just really good and really amazing, I always like what Nike does, because it's so... They remain so authentic to their brand over time, and they don't just go with the trends. They are sort of setting the trends and actually going for things that other people are maybe afraid to touch. Like, I think about the Colin Kaepernick Black Lives Matter campaign. So Colin Kaepernick was a NFL player. He was one of the first people to take a knee during the national anthem. That ended with him losing his whole career and him just being banished from the NFL. And Nike, instead of saying, this guy is wrong, they literally said, no, it's about inclusivity and we're going to make an entire campaign around him. And just being able to stand against what the entirety of the US was saying at that moment about this one person was impactful, to the point that it reached so many people, and it just matters so much more, and it makes people more connected with that particular player and with their brand.
Yeah, that's really nice as well, like doing something that means something rather than just we're going to try and sell.
Yeah. Which is what Nike, yeah, they're really good at doing that. Like, if you look at any Nike ad, they're never selling the trainers or the clothes or anything. They're selling a particular lifestyle, which is so important, and so it makes you actually build brand and actually care about them, which is why I say, like, share the process and share everything, because this is what Nike are actually focused on internally every single day. They're focused with what's going on within the world, within sport, within society, as opposed to being focused on how do we sell this particular trainer or shoe.
But do you think this is also...
it just makes people close.
Do you think this is also a strategy, though, to sell more? Because
100%.
when you're
100%.
When sales is your goal, no matter like how well-meaning your campaign is, sales still is one of the main goals.
So first of all, like, they split out their campaigns and what they're doing in terms of what is their hero content, so the big pillar piece of content that is designed to be impactful, and then they have their hub content, which is like their help stuff. So like they have like the Night Fitness app, and then they have their help content, which is basically what you just see every single day when you go onto Instagram. And they're really good at breaking this up and separating it out so that you get both worlds, instead of what everyone else does is they focus on either one or the other. But they do a really good job of blending the two, which is really amazing.
So actually you touched on something really interesting about macro content and micro content, which is another sort of strategy that you talk about in terms of how you can make the most of your content. And then
so I always think about how this video, for example, can be broken down into multiple pieces of content across the board. So I always think about that before I go in to actually recording anything or making anything, because if it's interesting enough and if it's fascinating enough, you can just take that one piece of content and turn it into multiple pieces of content in a short form format that allows you to distribute it across the multiple platforms, which is essentially what everyone who wants to build a brand needs to be doing. But it doesn't have to be, and this is the main point, it doesn't have to be like a video or a podcast if you don't like doing that. It's not easy to like just turn on the camera and just start recording for a lot of people, and it's a hard one to get to. But if you're an amazing writer, for example, then writing on Medium could be your way of actually doing that, and then taking a quote from something that you write on Medium, screenshotting it and sharing that on Instagram. It's the same thing as taking a clip from this video. So it's really just thinking about different ways that you can utilize it.
I've seen...
And turning one piece of content into many.
I've seen an author that I follow, Matt Haig, what he's doing. So he's written a book and he's just sort of taking pictures of little snippets from his book and just posting that on Instagram, which I'm avoiding because I don't want spoilers for the book.
So clever.
Yeah.
It's so clever. Because what he's also doing as well is, if you actually do read them, unlike you, and you're not trying to avoid them, the people that will read them will either be on the fence about buying the book. Anyone that knows that they're buying the book will probably say, okay, I don't want spoilers, I don't want to read them. So they're just going to buy the book anyway. But anyone that's on the fence about it, if he shares stuff that is really interesting, that could actually persuade them to actually say, okay, I want to actually read this book.
Yeah, I think maybe it was...
Which is, I
can't remember what made me buy the book. I think it might have just been his other book that I really enjoyed, and he was bringing out this book, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to get that. That sounds amazing. And then he started posting pages from the book. And obviously people are sharing these pages from the book because they're quite wise or witty or comforting.
Yeah, shareable content. But the sharing has to start with yourself first. You have to be willing to put it out there for people to actually want to share it as well. If you're not sharing it, then they're not going to share it.
That's good advice. So my final question for you, I know we've sort of covered loads and loads of different things, which I was hoping we were going to do, and we did. But my final question is, do you have any advice for artists and creatives starting out? And how can they build an online presence? Like, what do people want?
I think what is super important for any artist or illustrator starting out is just to think about what they want and what they want to actually happen. It's focusing, especially when you're starting out, focusing on the external market and trying to fix their problems before you figure out who you are is probably not a good idea. So really going internal and figuring out what you want to make and actually figuring out your path and your journey to actually making that particular thing. For example, Hazel always makes art about women's rights, femininity, periods, everything within that space. And I'm absolutely certain she just didn't wake up one day and say, this is what I'm going to make art about. It kind of grew and got into it. So it's a case of finding out what you actually want to do for yourself and then bringing that to the world and then seeing how people respond to it. But there's an audience for everything. Like this idea that a particular topic won't be talked about or isn't big enough to actually get started is definitely wrong. If you don't believe me, just go on Reddit and type in any topic that you want and look how many people are within every single community. It's insane. So yeah, there's definitely room and topics for absolutely everybody. So yeah, it's just about figuring out what you want, not what the audience wants.
I really like that. That feels refreshing and freeing rather than restrictive, like you've got to be following this certain path. Which I think social
Yeah.
media, if you're sort of stuck in a little bubble, you'd think, oh, everyone else is talking about this, I have to be talking about this. And it's not the
Yeah.
case.
Like social media is such an echo chamber. And what I mean by that is it just repeats back to you what you're looking at already. It's
So
not
much.
the entire world. If you want to just see how ridiculous it is, go on Instagram and just follow a bunch of random accounts and start liking all their posts. And then watch out, Instagram for you the next day is completely different. It's just one massive algorithm presenting information to you based on what you've already looked at. So it's not the be all end all, and there's so much more out there. So go outside.
I really like that.
Cool. On to my questions for you.
Go for it.
So the first question is, what were some of the tactics that you used when you first began, and what would you do differently now?
Oh, so I don't think I really thought about building a brand. I don't know, for a little while, everyone at university kept saying you have to find your thing, and I wasn't really sure what that was going to be. I knew I sort of wanted to make social commentary work, maybe something slightly feminist. But the way I started out, so I feel really old saying this, but in 2017, I wasn't on Instagram that much. I would post a couple of bits and bobs, but I wasn't following that many people. I wasn't being heavily influenced by loads of people either. So I think I had a bit more freedom in not feeling as restricted to what I made. And so on social media, I think I built myself up to 2,000 followers, which I was so happy with. I was over the moon. But the way I was trying to build up following was just through hashtags. Didn't really know what I was doing. I just used some hashtags and hoped for the best. But with my kind of outreach, this is what I focused all my energies into. I was emailing everyone. I was trying to find out all the art directors of all these magazines and newspapers, because at the time I wanted to be an editorial illustrator. So I thought, I'm just going to email everyone, I'm going to find out their numbers, I'm going to call them up, I'm going to knock on the doors. I actually did go and knock on like the Guardian head office door, like, hello, can I have some work, please? Or can I speak to the art director? And I got a few sort of baffled faces, like, that's not how things are done, you can't just come in here and ask to speak to the editor or something, you need an appointment. So I think I was really naive, but that really helped me. And I got my first commission through Instagram, actually. Because I was really ballsy, especially when I was younger, I'd just go for things. So I DM'd, I think they were knickers for disabled people. And I just sent them a DM saying, hey, I'm an illustrator, do you want to work with me? Or if you ever want to work with me, these are my details. And they said, actually, yeah, why not? And that was how I got my first commission.
That's amazing. I think that's really cool because I think it really speaks to what we were saying about that macro content, micro content. And I don't think if you realized it, but that's what you did. So you had your Instagram out there actually showing your work. And then at the same time, you were also sending the emails, and anyone that opened the emails probably looked at your Instagram in order to actually see who you were and to verify that you were actually a good illustrator, as well as just DMing people, being ridiculously confident, which is, insane. And it just really shows like there's so many parts to it. You can't just post on Instagram and hope and pray that something happens.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is I didn't get any work from all the other outreach I was doing by email and phone and knocking on doors. I don't know if it would be different now, but I do think if there's someone you want to work with, just try and find out who is going to be most likely to commission and just introduce yourself, say hi. My favourite thing to do was like ask if they wanted to go for a coffee. Actually, one person was an editor of a magazine that I really loved. I just sent her an email that saying Merry Christmas, and I think I ended it with wishing you a wonderful Christmas with mince pies and multiple orgasms, because, you know, I'm always trying to stand out. I'm always trying to be a bit quirky. And she replied saying, oh my God, I love that last line. Yeah, let's meet for a coffee or something. And we did. And we didn't work together for another 6 months, but it's just networking and meeting people
Building
and building relationships.
Yeah, so when you were knocking on the door of the Guardian, I'm guessing that taught you a very valuable lesson, right? About what building relationships actually looks like, compared to you just barging in and saying, hey, I want the meeting right now.
Yeah, I think there was maybe a year difference between that Christmas email marketing campaign that I did. I illustrated a really nice card, and I sent it. It's still cold emailing, and I would say, like, don't be too hopeful when you're cold emailing, but also, like, you know, you never know. But actually knocking on the door, I thought it was a really cool thing to do. But it was kind of met with like ice, because you're kind of going into someone's personal space, not really knowing who you're going to see. Don't know if I recommend it. But the nice thing about Instagram is you can have conversations with people and build up a little bit of a relationship there.
And get to know them, yeah.
Yeah, and it feels a little bit friendlier than emails. Like, I hate receiving cold emails. I just never even acknowledge them, really.
So if you had only one platform to begin with all over again, what would it be right now and why?
I don't know. I feel like I'd still say Instagram, because that's where I feel like my art can still sit comfortably, and like it can exist as an art piece. It doesn't have to be a video. But saying that, I feel like I've built up a bit of a platform, and now I feel like a lot of pressure to kind of maintain the quality. So I did get a TikTok, and I'm really enjoying like the freedom of that and having a new platform and experimenting.
Instagram makes sense because it is still the most visual platform in terms of still images. So yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, I've gradually gone away from Twitter. It just feels, every time I
toxic.
go on there, toxic Twitter.
It's toxic. It is toxic. So this kind of links back to the first question. How important is it to trust the process that you're going through and just believing in yourself and believing in karma and that you're on the right path and you're doing the right things?
I think, again, going back to being freelance and a freelance creative, it can be so hard. Like, even after a few years of doing it, like the other day I got another request, like, oh, I'd love to work with you. Got on the call and they started with, there's no budget. And it just, my heart sank, like, even after this time, I'm still here. And it really got to me that day. And you just have to kind of keep picking yourself back up and thinking more things will come along. Like, I've known what it's like to live on not that much money. I'm doing okay, and you can always make more money. And the other great thing is that as a creative, like, you're always coming up with new ideas.
The ability to create is so... It's the reason why I love artists and illustrators and musicians and anyone that makes something. It's literally like everything that we see on a daily basis. Like, everything around you was created by someone. It was someone's idea, which is, it's massive.
There are so many things you can do with creativity as well, and it's just trying to harness that and work out, okay, what's the next thing. And this is the issue I'm having at the moment. Every day I'm having like 10 new ideas. I'm like, my hands can't keep up with the drawing. That my mind is coming up with ideas. So even though I was saying earlier I'm on a little bit of a commission lull, I feel fine because I've got all these ideas in the pipeline. Like, okay, I can make this print. Okay, I'm going to collaborate on this t-shirt with this person. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. So I feel okay. And then the other thing is that I knew from very young I wanted to be some kind of artist, creative. And even if people are sort of saying to you, oh, are you sure you want to go down that route? It's not like stable money, or you're not going to get that much money.
Starving artists.
Oh my God. you just need to keep going. And I just knew I was going to do this. And so I went through all the steps needed. Like I did this qualification, I did this. Then I went out and started hustling and started getting commissions. I had part-time jobs to support what I wanted to do. I had a full-time job where we met and then quit that. And then I think just blindly, naively knowing what you want to do and just doing everything you can to get that, it will serve you well in the end.
Cool. So the final question is, which we spoke about throughout, is how important is it as an artist and an illustrator to be authentic with your work?
This is a really good question, because I think it's so hard, or it's so easy not to be. It can be so easy to create work for the likes, for the fame, for the recognition, for what you think other people will want to see. But if you're just sort of following trends, then you're not a trendsetter yourself. And I think you should always try and aim to be your authentic self, and then that way you're going to be the one that is setting the trends. But I just think if everyone's just kind of doing the same thing as each other and using the same quotes over and over again, I see that so much. I do just think it's such a shame. Where's the creativity gone? But when you're a child, you don't care what other people think about you. And then as you get older, you develop, I guess, all these social skills that make you want to fit into the group. And I feel like that is such a crush on creativity and authenticity.
This is massive. I saw this thing earlier today, which literally said, if you walk into a science classroom of 4-year-olds, they're asking really important questions of how was the world created? What was the first day on Earth? How did we get here? All these really lofty, important questions. And then by the time you hit 14, 15, all of those questions are completely gone and you can't get them out of inside the same science classroom. You just don't see anymore. Because we're taught to repress ourselves and to essentially just mute our lofty ideas and just to settle for the norm, essentially, which is it is a shame. But staying authentic is so important.
I think it will stand creatives in better stead as well, because if you're not following the trends, perhaps in the short term you won't be getting the same commissions that other people following the trends are getting, because it is a trend. But I feel in the long term you'll build up your own niche, or your own thing you're known for. I think people will connect with you more for it. That's my personal belief. Definitely.
I do think trends start somewhere, right? So you may not realize it, but you could be on a trend right now that just isn't popular. But it's just going to take some time for everyone else to catch up, and then it may explode later down the line and become a trend. But because that's all it is something that already exists is now becoming popular.
So Jordan, where can people find you? Who do you work with, and how can people work with you to build their brands and businesses?
Cool. So how can you find me? You can find me on the internet. Probably the best answer. YouTube. I'm actually going to start really building my YouTube. So you can find me there. That's probably the only place that I will exist for now. Maybe TikTok. You can also find me on TikTok. And who do I work with? So primarily I work with startups and small companies. Those that have some level of investment, something to spend on their marketing budget. If you're spending on Facebook ads and you don't know what you're doing, definitely reach out to me. I'm here. And yeah, pretty much small companies, startups, anyone that's looking for a way to actually drive growth to their business and understand who their customer is a lot more and how to get closer to their customer.
Cool. I can actually vouch for you because you did set up some ads for me to help me sell some calendars last year, which was so helpful. I had no idea what I was doing, and he just walked me through everything. So, yeah, I can recommend. So, Jordan, thank you so much for joining me today. It's always good to chat to you. I feel like it's just been a catch-up, really.
Literally has.
But I hope everyone that's made it this far, listening to us go on about all things, has got something useful out of it. And yeah, see you in the next video, guys.